Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Football Guys Best Ball Show. Dave Kluge here, as always, joined with my co-host James Brimacombe, and today we are going to be looking at some best ball resurrection drafts. James, you've been doing these for a couple of weeks now, and I know you've told me that you have been able to take away some things. I'm really interested to see kind of how reactive the market has been week to week. My plan with this best ball resurrection was to get in Thursday right before it closed, try to throw about 50 entries in there once we have as much information as possible. But I'm sure there is an edge to be had for those that started drafting a couple weeks ago. So I know you said you've done about 28 of these so far. What are some things you've learned, James?
I kind of had the initial thoughts like you. Like I wanted to wait until Monday night football week 5 is closed out, and then I just wanted to attack these. But I got a little bit bored and curious and wanted to jump in a few and kind of see how the boards looked. So I was doing maybe like one or two a day, getting used to the format and what to expect and the different changes in rankings and values and ADP as injuries came up and teams outperformed what we thought they were and underperformed. So yeah, a lot of interesting. We drafted so much in the summer, so you're going to see a lot of differences when it comes to ADP and your own personal rankings. So I've seen a lot of sharp drafters out there drafting. But I imagine when I enter these drafts now, they go pretty quick. They fill quick, and I imagine people are going to be chasing that overlay. So it's going to be a fun couple days here.
Sure will be. And I think one of the most interesting things is, looking at how some of these players that are big time overwhelmers and underwhelmers, how their ADP is changing. Naji Harris was
Mhm.
a first round pick that we weren't even thinking twice about. Well, maybe you and I were, but the consensus for the most part was, totally content drafting Naji Harris at the end of the first round. It wouldn't surprise me now if he's going in the 8th, ninth, 10th round. So kind of interested to see something like that. Amon St. Brown, a guy that you could have gotten in the
Mhm.
6th round this offseason, is probably now closer to a first, second round pick. So really interested to see how these shake out. But that did fill up quickly. Like you said, we are already in here. So let me go ahead and pull up my other screen here.
And
Let's go ahead and jump right in.
I would say, I know you're not going by, yeah, I got hers taken here. I would say that you probably should do your own rankings before you do this because there's going to be some players you just don't want. There's going to be some players you just want to X out, maybe due to injury or just, yeah, you just don't want them. So,
And I
um,
did
y-
I did pull my rankings this morning, so we're
okay.
working off of ADP. I started messing with those a little bit yesterday, but yeah, definitely recommend putting your own rest of season rankings in here.
Yep.
So
100%.
let me ask you, you've done a few of these so far, and obviously it changes by the week based on new information as it comes in, but we're picking at 11. With 11 and 14, typically if you're picking at that 1-2 turn this offseason, there are a couple different strategies. Some people wanted to take Travis Kelce with one of those picks. Some people wanted to double tap running backs. If you got lucky and a Stephon Diggs fell to you, you take him there. But who are some guys that you've typically seen go around the 1-2 turn so far?
You're actually seeing the quarterbacks, like people are really picking those up. So you have 6 less weeks to work with, right? So you can actually go with one of the QBs, and that's kind of your guy. And maybe you only take one more QB later in like the 16th, 17th round. So definitely have to pay up. It's different strategy than what we're used to in the off season as far as QBs go. Yeah, and honestly, I've been kind of focusing more on just the receivers and tight end the first couple of rounds, and then I'm building out whatever running backs fall a little bit, kind of playing more of the zero running back game a little bit more on these.
And now that you can't get Nick Chubb in the 3rd round.
Yeah, he's a first rounder now. Like him and Barkley, like I think you go either one in the first round, you're fine.
Yeah, and we already see Saquon Barkley already went at 3rd overall here, which I would kind of expect. Chris McCaffrey's still on the board, but a little bit underwhelming to start the season off so far. Nick Chubb, though, he has been as good as gold, so you can't really go wrong with that. Still up in a few picks here. Is this what you think that we should do? I mean, kind of what I'm thinking, just thinking out loud here. Travis Kelce's already off the board. So, obviously you want stacks in here, but they aren't quite as important in a season
Mhm.
long format as they are in weekly. But if you're able to start off, well, Stephon Diggs is already gone. Um, Lamar
No,
Jackson and Mark Andrews probably aren't making it to the turn. Have you seen anybody start off with that? I feel like that would be the ideal first 2 rounds that you can get would be a Mark Andrews and a Lamar Jackson stack.
Yeah, maybe a couple weeks ago, you could do that, but not anymore. Like people are really pushing those top end QBs and Kelsey and Andrews. Like this, the tight end position's so bad, right? Like those are the two guys that we can. I mean, tight end position is not so bad, but those are the two top guys without question. There's no question marks at all on them. So you put them in your lineup, you're feeling safe all season. So.
Well, do you think we should try to do this right here? I mean, it's not. It's very likely that that guy picking 12th and 13th ends up taking one of these two. But if Lamar Jackson and Andrews drop, do we try to take one and hope that we can get the other in the second?
I would probably go Andrews here, and then if you miss Lamar, maybe I'd come back
Get
with
Jalen
Hurts.
Hurts. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking. You don't get the stack, but you're still getting a very elite quarterback. And we had somebody auto draft Lamar Jackson there. So the other thing, do we want to pivot possibly and go with Jalen Hurts here and take AJ Brown, or do you think that's a little bit too much of a reach to force the stack?
No, I like it. I mean, yeah, Eagles fan and everything. Like even Goddard, like Goddard's a good tight end, and I think he's just going to get better as well. And he's one of the discounted ones I like to buy right now.
Yeah, I know you and I a lot this offseason when we were drafting ended up with Jalen Hurts, and then we would come back with the very next round and get Devonta Smith, rather than paying up for AJ Brown, and that seemed to work out pretty well. So feeling good about that. As much as I would love this AJ Brown stack with Jalen Hurts, I think I'm going Mark Andrews here if he slides though. Do you agree with that?
I think it's fine. Yep,
What would
I'm
you
okay.
prefer here? Let's throw it out to you. Do you prefer Mark Andrews or AJ Brown with this pick, considering that we already have Jalen Hurts?
See, I think Jalen Hurts is fine by himself, but also he has Smith and he has Goddard and he has like even Miles Sanders to stack with as well. So I like Andrews, just like you're locking in QB and tight end here. And it's not just in one basket and one team.
I like
Like
it.
I do love the stacks. I love stacking, but I don't think you really have to force it as much maybe in the resurrection one.
And AJ Brown at 14th overall. AJ Brown's been living up to the bill. We know that he's a very elite wide receiver one, but that might be a little bit too early to pull the trigger on AJ Brown. I'd say that there's not that I'm banking on it by any means, but it wouldn't surprise me if he slides back to us in the third round. I mean, we do have a late pick there, but AJ Brown. Talk about recency bias, and AJ Brown's coming off a pretty quiet week 5. So, had you drafted immediately after week 1 when AJ Brown pulled 14, 15 targets, had himself a huge week, AJ Brown was probably going in the first round. But I feel like there's got to be some sort of edge to be had if you're drafting players coming off of one down week. Where everybody is locked into the week to week grind, that there's got to be some advantage to get those guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, he is going to have huge weeks, but also Smith's having huge weeks. Smith's already had a couple, two spike
Two.
weeks, and like really nice spike weeks, same as AJ Brown. So, yes, AJ Brown, he can do more. He's maybe more flashy, more exciting, the superstar, but Smith can do the same thing in a later round.
We've got a Han in the group chat right now saying, just joined. Are you guys doing a best ball resurrection? We sure are. And we haven't even talked about it yet, but we've still got a few picks. So let's go ahead and pull up just so we can kind of go through how this works. We are looking at 28,509 entrants, currently at a 51% fill. So this contest closes on Thursday afternoon. Still got a few days that we might see some overlay in here. $10 to join. We got $100,000 going to first place, $500,000 in total. Out of those 28,557 entrants, if you come in the top 9,324, you are making at least $4. So there is a good chance to make some money here there. Just wanted to point that out because I don't believe that there is a way to pull that up from the screen that we're on. If you're watching the show though, and you have not already joined Underdog, be sure to do that with promo code Footballguys. You will get a 100% deposit match up to $100 on your initial deposit. So throw $100 in there and you can get yourself 20 entries into this tournament. Thanks for letting me do some housekeeping there, James. But we still have a ways until our next pick. AJ Brown off the board. I mean, no huge surprise there. Brees Hall is a guy who should be shooting up rankings. I mean, you want to try to get ahead of player curves. And right now, Brees Hall is sitting as RB7 on the year. But from a dynasty standpoint, when we're projecting years out in the future, I think he's already unanimously in that elite tier with Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift. So where would you feel comfortable drafting a guy like Brees Hall in this sort of format?
Yeah, I mean, third round, I think is where you have to take him now. I don't think I have much of him just so far in my drafts. Maybe early on when he was a lot less, and then the last couple of weeks he's kind of shot up the board. So I think he's the type of player you want to focus on, though. I think is the younger kind of player, more explosive. There still might be some ceiling there that we still haven't seen. So and the Jets, I don't know if they're as bad as we think. Like I think Zach Wilson is a decent QB. So that offense is a lot more fun and than I think a lot of people thought in the offseason.
Yeah, and I think the one consensus whiff that we have all kind of seen happen so far was Elijah Moore. That was a guy that a lot of people had pegged to be the wide receiver one. He was putting up some great numbers last year with with Zach Wilson, but now with Garrett Wilson there and Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzuma and Brees Hall catching passes out of the backfield, it's rendered Elijah Moore almost useless. So, there's a lot of strategy that goes into these best ball resurrections, but he's a guy I'm interested to see where his ADP lands right now. Look at that,
Yeah, I was gonna
110th overall.
Yeah, so I'm just pulling up my exposure when you say Elijah Moore. My number one owned player in this and this has 25 drafts that has me at. It's not showing three of them, but is Elijah Moore. 52% I have of him. So I think I've been taking him as like my wide receiver 6, like all the time in these. And that's the kind of player that I want to bank on. I want to look 6 weeks in or 5 weeks in. I want to find those players that I'm still pretty high on, but things haven't went their way the first few weeks, but the talent's still there and the offense is still in their favor. So
Well, there goes Brees Hall and Dameon Pierce. I was hoping to get one of those two there, both off the board now. We've already got Jalen Hurts and Mark Andrews. As much as I'd love to cram Aaron Jones in here and get that good running back, I think what we do is probably take one of these wide receivers, right? Mike Williams, Chris Godwin, Cortland Sutton, Christian Kirk, Michael Pittman. Do you have a preference on any of these guys, James, or do we go with Aaron Jones?
I like Mike Williams and I like Cortland Sutton out of that bunch. And then I kind of like Pittman as well, but I like those other two better.
Now, are you taking Aaron Jones ahead of any of these guys?
I'm actually not taking running backs, and usually I have been taking running backs in the past. Like sometimes I'll take the running back in the second or third round on these if it's a guy I like that's kind of fell to me, but I'm not trying to force them in.
And this is the same format as Best Ball Mania, where you have one quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex. So if there's ever a format to really load up on wide receivers, this is it because you can start up to 4 a week, correct?
Yes, yeah, and yeah, I also like Godwin too here, but I still kind of favor Mike Williams a little bit.
Yeah, especially with Keenan Allen. I mean, we knew that there was the concern with him getting up there in age. This is typically when we see wide receivers start to fall off that age cliff a little bit. And now at 30 years old, he's dealing with hamstring injuries, hasn't necessarily been himself this year. And we haven't seen it consistently, but Mike Williams is the guy there. And he's already had one big week that I can remember. Let me take a look at his stats real quickly here.
Yeah, he was good last week. He just didn't get a touchdown last week. Yeah, it doesn't break it out by games unless you're doing the battle royale. Then it'll show you all the game log,
which is a nice feature. But positional rank wide receiver 15 on the year, so pretty solid production we've been getting out of Mike Williams. I kind of like this with the picking up the turn because it gives us lots of time to discuss some strategy and player takes in between our picks here. So currently starting off, we've got Jalen Hurts, Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams, and Mark Andrews. Kind of wonky to see this. I mean, with how many best ball drafts we did in the offseason, this isn't ever something you would be looking at through the first 4 rounds. I mean, Jalen Hurts was typically going in the 6th round, but like you said, we have noticed a huge change in how advantageous it is to have one of these top quarterbacks. And I saw JJ Zacharyson talking about that a little bit earlier today on Twitter. It seems like that really was the skeleton key to having a good fantasy team this year was getting one of those top 5 quarterbacks. So it makes sense that they're getting pushed up now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and I don't know if there's too many at the back end that switch is gonna turn on. So it kind of feels like these are the guys. If you want them, you got to pay for them.
And look, here we are, still in round 4, and these are the best quarterbacks available. I mean, whew. Joe Burrow, he's had a couple stinkers so far this year. Tom Brady, last I saw, he was outside of the top 20 quarterbacks overall. Jared Goff. I mean, he's had some good games, but it's Jared Goff. I mean, how much confidence are you putting in him to win a big tournament
Mhm.
for you? Dak Prescott might be coming back this week, might not, but even week one, he didn't look too great prior to that injury. Aaron Rodgers has been terrible. Trevor Lawrence, outside of his week 3 spike, hasn't really done much of anything at all. So, I mean, yeah, I feel like if you're not getting one of these top guys, really the best thing to do is wait till the very end, snag a guy like Geno Smith and hope that he can keep it up. Maybe Russ Wilson, hope that he can turn it around. But yeah, the
Yeah.
pickings get really slim really
I
quickly
I
for
think
quarterbacks.
Zach Wilson is a sneaky pick, and his ADPs went way up. But he's one guy at the bottom end that I've been drafting a lot of.
Yeah.
And I still like Justin Fields. I'm just buying the dip on that. He's just so late.
I talked with Matt Waldman about that today, and because I don't know if you saw, I know you're not a hardcore film guy, but one of my favorite things to watch is Trent Dilfer when he does his film breakdowns, and he has been saying since the season kicked off, every single time he watches Justin Fields, he sees everything in Justin Fields that he fell in love with when he was a prospect coming out of college. And obviously, he's got some offensive line issues, and the play calling has been pretty abysmal so far in Chicago. Not the best group of weapons around him. But Trent Dilfer is steadfast in his belief that Justin Fields is going to be an elite level quarterback. So I sent that video over to Matt Waldman this morning. We talked about it a little bit, and he thinks that, Justin Fields is going to be just fine as well, that this is nothing more than a little speed bump in what should be a great career. But yeah, I mean, if you're swinging for pure upside and you can get Justin Fields in the 16th, 17th, 18th round, why not?
Yeah, I think especially if you go one of these top end QBs as well. So then you just get Fields as your QB too. And it doesn't matter if he doesn't have that spike week, until week
Got
8,
Jalen
it's
Hurts.
still fine. Yeah. With
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts would be like a perfect stack with Fields, in my opinion.
So let's take a look because we don't have to force stacks too much, but let's see where some of these other guys are going. So Devonta Smith with an ADP of 52. Our next pick on the board is 59. This is definitely our primary target, what we want in Devonta Smith, right? We could also, we've already got Mark Andrews, so it might be a little crazy to take Dallas Goddard here, but also, is it that crazy? I mean, we've seen bully tight end doing pretty well, and if we get the Mark Andrews spike weeks, and then we stack Jalen Hurts with Dallas Goddard, we can flex one of these guys if they both hit. Miles Sanders just went off the board. Devonta Smith and Dallas Goddard are still here. I'd be happy with either of these guys with our next pick. What do you think about taking Goddard, considering we already took Andrews in round 2?
No, after our last pick in round 4, I was like, these are the two guys I was going to tell you to throw in the queue.
All right. Well, look
with
at that.
Sand, yeah. I mean, if we didn't miss on them, then you go. I'm fine with Ramondre and Dobbins, like maybe, but even Drake London, that's an awesome pick. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Duvernay in the 5th round. That's nuts.
Yeah, people getting a little blinded by those touchdowns, but
Remember,
Rashad Bateman is
18th
hurt.
round. Well, off season, we had some 18th round Duvernay.
Yeah. And Nico Collins too. Let's put a little feather in our cap for that one. Nico Collins, hasn't really done it yet, but I was just looking the other day. He's been consistent, seeing about 6 targets per game. So hopefully that breakout and spike week will hit eventually. There goes Devonta Smith off the board. That is a bummer. But I like your call out with Ramondre Stevenson. I'm not sure if you saw, but they just said that Damien Harris is expected to miss multiple weeks. So looking like Ramondre Stevenson could have that backfield to himself on a team that really likes to run the ball. But we're going to go with Dallas Goddard ahead of Ramondre here, correct? This guy's already got 2 running backs, so I would be pretty shocked to see him take another. I think Ramondre makes it back to us. We are done with tight ends. We're not touching tight ends for the rest of this draft, but we have cornered the market on tight ends in this draft. I'm pretty happy with Andrews and Goddard considering the Jalen Hurts stack.
No, yeah, man, how many weeks is Harris gonna miss? That's rough. I like both those guys, and I've been drafting equal shares. The same with like Penny and Kenneth Walker all off season. I was just doing either or. Like if I didn't get one, I'd get the other. So
Yep. I did a lot of the same. Yeah. I think I had a slight preference towards Damien Harris and Rashad Penny, but you got to kind of play under the assumption that we aren't always right. So if you can't get one of those guys, go pick the other one and switch up your exposure a little bit. Here we are getting Ramondre Stevenson. Let me throw a trade out to you, not best ball related, but in my home league last week, it was either Wednesday or Thursday. Somebody traded away Naji Harris for Ramondre Stevenson straight up. And at the time, we were all ripping him apart, giving him a really hard time for selling low on Najee Harris. But whew, after last week and now with the Damian Harris injury, it's looking like that might have actually been a pretty solid move.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, that's tough. What is that, dynasty or just straight up redraft?
This was redraft. We could
Yeah.
not believe it. I mean, we were giving him a hard time for it, but then Ramondre comes out, gets almost 200 yards last week. Damian Harris gets hurt. Najee Harris,
What
throws
was this
another
guy like
stinker out there.
was he like 1-3 in his league or something? Yeah, and that's the kind of trade you want to make. That's like, you know what? Like Harris is not going to win me a week. He's
Yep.
playing the Bills this week and he's probably going to get like 5 points. And yeah, that guy
Yep.
was ahead of it. I like it. Like be
And then,
aggressive.
And then Mike Tomlin came out today and said, Jalen Warren's been balling. We got to keep getting him the ball. So Najee Harris, a guy who I think we all knew wasn't the best running back, didn't have great efficiency last year, but his, fantasy production was really buoyed by a lot of volume and a lot of check down work from Ben Roethlisberger. And there was the concern that he was going to lose some of that volume this year. But I certainly didn't be expecting to be having this conversation this early in the offseason that Najee Harris, former first round pick, is already in a timeshare with Jalen Warren. Kind of wild to see.
I mean, I think we're just jumping to conclusions a little too early there. So I think you let it play out for a couple more weeks. Like I don't think Najee's dust or anything, and I think he's still going to be a viable best ball player that we're going to count on down the stretch. So
Let's see where he got drafted because that was one of the names that I mentioned when we first started this.
yeah, he's usually 4th, 5th round.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a 410
yep,
here, so right at the 4 or 5
4th,
turn. That's
5th, yeah.
I would have expected him to slide a little bit more, but there's still people holding on to hope there. So with this next pick, we're set at tight end, set at quarterback. So let's just pull those out of the queue. We're just going to be looking at running backs and wide receivers here. Love Garrett Wilson. I don't know if he will slide all the way to us, but I'd be very, very happy with that pick. Again, we're looking for guys that are going to be trending in the right direction. George Pickens is another guy who got off to kind of a slow start this season, but ever since Kenny Pickett has taken over, he has led the team in yards in back-to-back weeks. So George Pickens is a guy that I wouldn't mind here. Who are some of the guys that you are looking at this ADP here?
I was gonna say Judy, but I think he just got picked because
He did.
actually I wasn't drafting any Russ Wilson really all off season, but in this format, I really like to draft him because he
He's
just
free.
he falls so far, and as my QB too, and they paid him so much money. I mean,
Only
he's
a
not
quarter
gonna
of $1 billion.
he's never gonna get benched, and like yeah, I think Denver, they lost their star young running back as well. Like that offense is going to open up soon, and I think Wilson's going to get his soon. But
So let's throw. I know we said wait because we already paid up for Jalen Hurts, but we've got Cortland Sutton as well. So not that I'm going to pay up for him by any means, but if it's the 11th, 12th round and Russell Wilson's still there, might be okay taking him as a QB too.
yeah, I like that. Yeah. So
I'm trying to
yeah, we
think
can
some
look.
of the recent injuries that we just saw this week. I'm just kind of firing off the top of my head. You've done a bunch of these. Raheem Mostert right now going at 102. That seems like a huge steal in my opinion. He is. There's obviously the concerns about injury, but Raheem Mostert has all but solidified his role as the lead back in Miami. That seems like a huge value right there that you can get in the 8th round.
Yeah, it's not a bad, and it keeps going up. And Chase Edmonds keeps going down. I've actually been buying really cheap Chase Edmonds as well. Like even his ADP is like 140, but I've been getting them at like 170.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, and what we've seen in best ball, just kind of you look at some of your top scoring teams, like it doesn't matter about those players so much because they're more of the build. They're not like I'm hoping this player every week counts for me. It's more go ahead. Yeah, we're on the clock here.
We are
You
on the
going
clock.
Gordon?
I do like Melvin Gordon here. It seems like the market hasn't fully adapted yet. We're
Mhm.
getting him right now as the RB24 off the board. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a little bit of a reach? I do like Travis
I like
Etienne is another high
Singletary. I
ceiling.
like Montgomery. I like Gordon. I think Gordon's a little bit overvalued, but
Do you?
it's not.
With
No, it's
no
not bad. It's
Javante?
not bad.
Oh, we'll go Gordon here. I like that pick. I like Singletary. I like ETN. But we've already got 2 running backs here. I'm not sure how heavy we want to go on running backs. Brandon Cooks, steady, kind of boring, doing exactly what we expected from him this year. DJ Moore, I mean, wildly talented. You got to hope that he can bounce back at some point. Is
I
DJ
like
Moore possibly the pick here?
I like DJ Moore or Brandon Cooks.
All right,
That's
I'll let you
where I
make
would
this
go.
choice. Who do you prefer between the two, Moore or Cooks?
I would go Cooks just because Carolina's a mess.
They sure are. That is saying it lightly. And then we got PJ Walker. I mean, if this was going, if this kicked off week 7, I'd say that there's probably a pretty good chance to buy low on DJ Moore after this week. But this kicks off in just a few days. But yeah, it could be some tough sledding with PJ Walker playing quarterback for Carolina going forward. Have we heard any word? I haven't seen yet. Do you know how long Baker Mayfield is going to be out for?
I have no idea. I mean, maybe they just say he's out for the season, so then they don't have to worry about doing that. Hey, you're benched.
Yeah, we've seen that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is a fun looking team so far, and now it's starting to look a little bit more like something we would have drafted in the offseason. It's kind of funny, this guy goes up and this guy goes down, and then all of a sudden, by the time you're sitting in round 8 looking at your team, it looks just like an offseason team, just drafted in different rounds everywhere. Jalen Hurts, who was a 6th-round pick, we had to pay up for him in the first year. Cortland Sutton going a little bit earlier. Brandon Cooks going a little bit later. But overall, this is starting to look kind of like a team we would have drafted in the offseason.
Yeah. No, yeah. There's players we like and offenses we're somewhat believe in. So I like it. I don't. There's still good names here that we like, receiver and running back. What do you think about Brian Robinson? Because that's the Washington backfield I can't figure out right now. So I don't know. Nobody wants to draft Gibson. Like even at his ADP, he'll fall like 2 rounds past that. So.
Yeah, Brian Robinson, I mean, just a miraculous story. I can't believe that he's coming back. I'm sorry about that. The just got a UPS package dropped off, so my dogs are going ballistic at the front door. But yeah, Brian Robinson, I mean, great story. The fact that he was even able to come back at all is just a nothing short of a miracle. But he looked good, and Antonio Gibson hasn't. I'm sure you saw week 1, they were actually utilizing Antonio Gibson as a pass catcher, like we've wanted to see since he came into the league. A former wide receiver. He was running a ton of routes. He was getting targets, had a huge boom week in week 1. Then they just shelved it for some reason. He hasn't been back out there since. So, I haven't done any of these drafts yet. And I'm just kind of talking through my thoughts out loud here. I think that I'd probably be prone to fading that backfield a little bit, but it also really just comes down to value. So let's take a look at where these guys are getting drafted.
I will tell you on these drafts, like after round 9, like running backs dry up pretty quick. Like we only have 2 running backs. You're not gonna like at the end of this draft what the rest of your running backs are gonna look like.
That's yeah, and I mean they're already drying up quick.
Yeah.
Here we are in round 9, and there already aren't many options. I mean we're already in handcuff territory. Damon Harris is going to miss some time. Cordero Patterson's going to miss some time. I think what I'd continue doing here, if we're going to wait on running backs, is get some of these young guys with good profiles that you hope can find themselves in better positions. Something happens to Leonard Fournette, Rachaad White is all of a sudden a top 10 running back. Elijah Mitchell, he's probably a guy I'm not too keen on buying right now just because of the severity of his injury. I'm not sure when he would come back, but I could see myself taking Isaiah Pacheco late. Darrell Henderson, that seems kind of bizarre that he is still going this late. I mean, we've seen Cam Akers has been awful this season. I mean, to put it lightly.
I see. I'm actually buying Akers. I like Akers now in my builds again. Still,
are
like
you
at his price? Like, and I'm not opposed to getting both of those guys. To be honest, like right here at the turn 9, our 9-10 turn, getting both of them. Then I mean, the Rams haven't looked good, but at the same time, you get both of the guys in the backfield. So
yeah.
Like, didn't Henderson? He didn't even have 1 carry. I don't think.
Did not have a single carry. No,
Yeah.
I mean it. I don't know what's happening with the Rams. I mean, I just wrote about Cam Akers as a guy trending down in my article that I published this morning because the volume has been there, but it's just been it's been abysmal. I mean, rushing yards over expectation. There's only one guy in the league that is averaging fewer rushing yards over expectation per carry than Cam Akers, and that's Chase Edmonds. And Chase Edmonds just got benched for Raheem Mostert, so I think it's kind of inevitable. But let's talk through this pick right here. I mean,
this is where I smash Elijah Moore. Yep, every time I'm taking him here.
I was gonna say I do not mind Elijah Moore here one bit. So we will go ahead and lock
Like
that in. But then
even
we'll just
I like Renfro as well here. Like that, like I think Renfro is fine.
Renfro. Where?
And
Where am
maybe
I now? Oh, down here. All
and
right.
maybe Adams even gets, who knows how many games he gets suspended too. But that's a thought. But then you
Yeah,
got
gotta buy this week, but then yeah, the suspension could be looming. That was such a weird thing. Like I saw that happen live, and I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. And then I hopped on Twitter and I saw it, and it was just bizarre. I mean, in
no.
all my years watching football, I don't think I've ever seen a player attack a member of the media like
Mm,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
so the kind of
emotions
uncharted
there.
territory. Could be a one-game suspension, could be a six-game suspension. Who knows? But I'm sure the league is going to drop a hammer on that.
No.
I mean, I've seen players get suspended for touching a referee, like not in any sort of violent matter, like putting a hand on their shoulder, and they get suspended for that. I don't know. Like I said, these are uncharted territories, but Devontae Adams could end up missing some serious time. So let's try to plan a little bit ahead because we just keep talking and then we get on the clock and we kind of panic our way through it. So
Next thing
we'll
you know,
use
we're drafting Renfro.
right. So I mean, we're loaded up on wide receivers here. Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams, Brandon Cooks, Elijah Moore, Hunter Renfro. I'm feeling pretty solid about that wide receiver core. Running backs are shaky to say the least. To say the least, for Madre Stevenson and Melvin Gordon. I know we talked about possibly getting a Russell Wilson at a discount to pair up with Cortland Sutton, so I'll throw him in the queue. But I think that we got to go running back with our next pick. You had mentioned Cam Akers. I don't hate that.
You just said
I
you
know.
wrote an article about how much you hate him.
I mean,
Just
if
kidding.
you made a strong, compelling point, and I'm not sold on it, but again, we have to operate under the assumption that we're not always right. And while I am fading Cam Akers, you make a good point. If you're getting him in the 11th, 12th round, the upside is still there if they could figure things out. But I do like your idea of double tapping both of these guys. So, what would your preference be? Russell Wilson and a running back, or go with the Rams double tap at 11, 12?
I like Wilson just because then you have the stack, double stack, because you have the running back too. And then you have two QBs are done. We have two tight ends we're done. And then I build this team out. Our receivers are really, really nice here. You
So
could
yeah, running
actually
back, running back, running back, running back, running back for the rest of the draft, pretty much.
you honestly could end with 7 running backs on this team and I'd be fine. Like you go 2-7-7-2, or you could actually go 2-8-6-2. Like you could go crazy
Ooh,
with this. Like
yeah. I mean, if we're gonna be punting running backs, and you weren't kidding. I'm glad that I'm doing with this draft with somebody who has a little bit of experience because that would have been my plan. Would just be to wait on running backs until the final 4 or 5 rounds and then really load up with my last 4 or 5 picks there. But you said they dried up quickly, and they
mhm.
surely did because here we are in round 11, and Cam Akers, Tyler Algier, an injured Elijah Mitchell. Those are the top guys on the board right now. Alexander Madison, who got almost no
Like
touches last week. It looks like
I actually love Michael Carter as well. I think, I mean, I like, Benjamin still. Like, there's still names in there.
really should have read my article before we got on the show, man. I'm sitting here talking about how Michael Carter is about to be irrelevant because of the emergence of Brees Hall. I'm talking about how Cam Akers is going to be irrelevant. All the guys that you're kind
Wait,
of hyped up
that
right
was a
now. I just wrote
redraft
about.
article, though, right? So that's
True,
redraft.
it
Like, I
was.
think best ball is just different, and that's I kind of think differently through it, where these guys are still relevant when I'm drafting a best ball team because it's not. I don't need Michael Carter to be Brees Hall every game. Like I'm fine with him every other game, kind of going off, or even every third game, like as
Yeah.
part of my build. So yeah, I'm looking at it differently. I'm not. I'm sure I'm going to read your article, and I'm sure you're right. And then all my redraft teams, I'm just gonna take that for gospel.
Thank you. Yeah, the other basically what I'm trying to do is just recognize trends that are happening right now in fantasy football. And the other one that I was looking at were the Jacksonville Jaguars and trying not to, let my off-season take premeditate my in-season take, but it sure seems like there's a changing of the guard happening where Travis Etienne has been commanding more touches, commanding more snaps. He's now outsnapped James Robinson in back-to-back weeks. He's getting much more passing down work, and then the efficiency. I mean, they had the same amount of touches last week, and Travis Etienne had almost 4 times as many yards. So trying to read between the lines, look at who's the
Mhm.
more efficient back and which way touches and snaps are trending. Basically what I'm saying is that I expect Darrell Henderson, Brees Hall, and Travis Etienne to just run away with their backfields in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But I think it's going to cost you more in this kind of a format. But taking the other side, you're going to get a huge discount, and I still think there's value there. Like they're still going to help your team and give you points.
You know who
And
I'm looking at right here, James? Allen
Allen
Robinson.
Robinson. Oh, geez.
Pick 133. He's been awful this year. I just pulled it up this morning. You know he has the 10th most red zone targets in the NFL.
Wow, that's crazy. I think you go Henderson here. You keep talking about him. I think you have to take him.
All right. We got Henderson. There we go. And I don't know if Henderson's going to be the guy. I mean, literally 0 carries last week, so you don't feel too good about that. But I just cannot imagine them continuing to feed the rock to Cam Akers when he has been as bad as he is. And I mean, it's not just what my eyes are telling me.
Here goes
Saying it as well.
Robinson's going to get picked right here. Guy just
Could be.
Stafford.
I want Russell Wilson here. We're going to go with Russell Wilson. And now we are done with quarterbacks and we are done with tight ends for the draft. So let's take a look here. We got Jalen Hurts.
Look at that. ADP Russ Wilson, 123, and you get him at pick 134. His ADP was like in the 60s? 60s also? Yeah.
Yeah, he was I believe he was QB8. QB7 or QB8. I think he was QB8 because it was the top 6. You know, they held strong all season. And then I believe it was Burrow and then Russ Wilson, or maybe it was Brady, whatever it was. He was QB8 or QB9.
Yeah, people were chasing those week 17 stacks, taking Wilson ahead of Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray. Like that's how crazy people were on Russell Wilson. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent there.
No, let's take a look at the team so far. We got a little bit of time until our next pick. So we got Jalen Hurts stacked up with Dallas Goedert, which we love. We also have a standalone Mark Andrews to really corner the tight end market. And then we've got Russell Wilson stacked up with Melvin Gordon and Courtland Sutton. So fingers crossed. I also wrote my article today about how Russell Wilson is trending down and you should cut him if you're in a 10-team fantasy league. But hey, let's operate under the pretense that maybe he gets a little bit better as the season goes on. They're giving this man $250 million. Hopefully they can figure it out. We've also got Ramondre Stevenson and Darrell Henderson in our running back room. But the strength of this team, in addition to the quarterbacks and tight ends, is definitely the wide receivers. Courtland Sutton, Mike Williams, Brandon Cooks, Elijah Moore, Hunter Renfrow. We might sprinkle in another 1 or 2 wide receivers here, but for the most part, we're just going to be hammering running backs for the rest of this draft, right?
I think that's the way you want to play it, unless one of these receivers just jumps off the page. Like, I don't know. I mean, if Allen Robinson's still there, that's fine. But like Josh Palmer, I think is kind of fun, especially with Mike Williams. So kind of pairing both those together. It's also not something a lot of people like to do, but I kind of see the Chargers going off here soon. So I can just see the offense being an offense you're going to want. And yeah, there goes Palmer. Herzig grabbed him.
All right. So, yeah, looking at these next picks, would love Isaiah Pacheco here. We're just looking at a guy who, again, has been the more efficient running back in a committee. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been a great story to start the year, but his production has really been propped up by a lot of touchdowns, where Isaiah Pacheco has, been the hammer in the middle of the field that could work his way into some more significant work. So I do like Isaiah Pacheco here a lot. Eno Benjamin just went off the board, so we will not talk about that anymore.
Gainwell. We got to get some Gainwell with our Eagles stack.
With our Eagles stack. And who else? We'll scroll down a little bit further. James Cook isn't a guy that I have.
How long is Treylon Burks out?
He is on IR, and he's only missed 1 game so far, so a minimum of 3 more games. Could be more than that. Turf toe is a notoriously bad injury to recover from. I mean, you remember Devontae Adams a few years ago. He picked up turf toe like week 1 or 2, and he was questionable for the rest of the season, had one of his worst years ever.
Yeah, I was just thinking more of just like after week 10 kind of deal with him, because our receivers are kind of built out pretty nice. So he would be more like, hey, let's make the playoffs with this team. And then we have a guy that has some potential that might be kind of lower owned.
Again, I'm going to apologize. My dogs are going ballistic right now. They got the next door neighbor's dog worked up too, and they're just going back and forth acting a fool now. Sorry about that. All right,
my dog's been good. So
yeah, my dogs normally are, but yeah, the UPS guy came, and then the neighbor's dog started barking, and now they won't stop. Let's see some of these no wide receivers really jump out to me here. I don't mind Treylon Burks, but I think we could probably wait on him because of the injury. I think that's going to scare people.
You can take him off the board. That's fine. I don't love him at all. These wide receivers are all the same to me. I'm still drafting Chase Claypool. That's just me.
I mean, here we talked about it a little bit. Naji Harris losing some touches. Mike Tomlin giving some, some pretty strong words of affirmation to Jalen Warren. This is what
Yep.
I'd prefer, is to get both of these
Yep.
guys
I
right
like
now.
it. I like that. Especially if we're thinking we're going 7 running backs too. Like it's not a huge hit.
Yeah, so we're just going to keep loading up on high upside guys. Ramadre, he's going to be solid for the next few weeks. Melvin Gordon, hopefully he can do something there. Darrell Henderson, Kenneth Gainwell, Jalen Warren, whoever else we end up with. We're just, pure praying for pure upside at that point.
I still like Hilliard too. There's like a few guys, sneaky guys, I think, out there that still they should be higher in value. Well, Warren goes right there. So now what are you gonna do? That's a surprise. Who else are the running backs?
Yeah, I'm taking a look right now, tilting a little bit over that one. James Cook, Latavius Murray, Dontrell Hilliard, Jerick McKinnon, Samaje Perine.
McKissick's not bad, I guess, just for some kind of floor.
Yeah,
I mean, you could go Cook for later ceiling.
Yeah, we'll go.
I like Josh. I think Josh Kelly looks like he might be something too to these 0 RB teams, like as a 7th running back. So he could be a last round pick.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting some standalone value. I mean, it's not just pure upside either. Like he's getting touches with Austin Eckler there. They talked about wanting to alleviate his workload a little bit, and they sure are. I don't know what it is. I just don't have any interest in any 5 of these guys. James Cook, Latavius Murray, Dontrell Hilliard, Jerick McKinnon, Gus Edwards.
I like Hilliard and I like Gus Edwards a little. And then other names down. Yeah. And then I like Kelly. I like Perine's fine. Who else we got? Oh, DJ Dallas is an interesting pick. I think he should be on people's boards for a last round flyer.
And the crazy thing too is there could still be trades that happen too. There is who knows. Maybe Rex Burkhead gets traded. I mean, I doubt it, but somebody could still end up in Seattle.
Back to the Patriots,
right?
Yeah. So when you're doing these drafts, you got to remember that running backs really, really dry up, and but I still don't mind like going 7 running backs, these kind of builds when you're going higher end on the other positions. But you don't love Gus Edwards?
I don't mind it. J.K. Dobbins is my guy, but Gus Edwards is going to command some work there, and that he's got at least 1-2 touchdown game under. That'll happen at some point this season. So let's see. We've still got 15, 16, 17, 18. We still have 4 picks left. We have 5 running backs and 5 wide receivers. How do you think we split these up?
I would do 2-7-7-2. I think that's the way. Let's super heavy wide receivers here on the board. Guys I like here at wide receiver. I mean, Sky Moore. I'd go with more like younger kind of upside picks. Maybe I like Van Jefferson a lot for this tournament. I think.
Van Jefferson. That's a name that we haven't heard in a while. Has he played yet this season?
No. I don't think he's due back for still a couple more weeks. I like KJ Osborne still. I'd like Peoples Jones. I think he's still viable.
I mean, Christian Watson is another guy. It seems like we've really seen Dubs and Lazard separate themselves from the pack. No pun intended. But with Christian Watson, it seems kind of wild that he's sliding this far. I mean, we saw him getting the looks in week 1, right? And then Lazard came back and he's just...
Does he have a hamstring issue? Like he has some kind of injury.
Does he? Let me take a look into that. Yeah, you are right. Yeah, he got hurt on Sunday morning. I don't know how I missed that.
Yeah, anytime people have injuries and especially in this resurrection, you're seeing a lot that people don't want to touch them.
Yeah, and I completely get that. I mean, we were talking about Elijah Mitchell, and somebody else drafted him. Elijah Mitchell, I'd say, is completely off my draft board in this type of format. When he originally got injured, they gave him an 8-week timetable, but I've been playing fantasy football long enough to know how this happens. An 8-week timetable can quickly turn into a 10-week timetable, which turns into a 12-week timetable, which turns into a season-ending injury. So I just can't imagine drafting somebody who, at best, you're only going to get a handful of weeks from, and at worst, is a draft pick that you completely flush down the toilet.
Right. Yeah.
So do we want to
So
go with Sky here? Because we did see him getting some snaps last night at the very end of the game, but man, his snap count has been brutal to start the season.
I mean, I probably prefer KJ Osborne. I really like Hilliard. Like I know what's your case on
I
him?
think
Why you
Hilliard
don't like?
just went off the board. Oh no, he's still available. I like Hilliard. I think he's got standalone value. My fear with Hilliard is that if Derrick Henry gets injured, that Hilliard's role is pretty safe as that pass catching third down back. And I think that Hassan Haskins comes in and gets the goal line and early down work. So I don't know if there's a ton of huge upside for Hilliard. I think that you're just kind of getting him for what he is. Um,
I think he's got spike week potential every week. I think
he
he's
did in
like,
week one. We saw it. Yeah.
well, he got a touchdown last week too. And
Yeah.
McKissick, like I think he's better than McKissick. I think he should go ahead of McKissick. Like that's how much
So we're on the board now. 10 seconds left. Gus Edwards or P Ryan? Who do you prefer here?
I like KJ Osborne.
KJ Osborne. All right, let's do it. Now we're at 6 running backs and 6 wide receivers with 2 picks left. So we'll probably go 7 and 7 here, right?
I think that
Let's see. Man, nobody's really jumping out to me. I mean, all these guys, it's funny when you're in the 16th, 17th, 18th rounder in the offseason, you could paint a strong picture for anybody and, kind of imagine them stepping into a bigger role. But when we're in season and we see how these roles have started to shake out, I mean, Richie James, KJ Hamler, Ben Skoranek, guys that, we could have made a strong case for. Now we're just nothing but prayers at this point.
well, I mean, Marvin Jones, people hate him, but he still puts up points.
Reliable.
I mean, what other names? Oh, Quez Watkins. Yeah, that's what I would do for my 7th receiver.
Yep. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Braxton Berrios getting some looks again now that Zach Wilson is back. Joe Flacco wasn't looking his way at all, but now all of a sudden Zach Wilson's there and Braxton Berrios has a life again. So we're going to go with one more running back. I don't think anybody's going to snipe us on Quez Watkins, so I'll just keep him down there. But also, knock on wood, who knows?
So we got 3 picks left or 2 picks?
2 picks left.
2 picks.
Yeah. 2 picks left. Yeah, we got Oh no, we do have 3 picks left.
No, 2. 17,
nope,
18.
2. You're right. Yeah, 17 and 18. I mean, I really like Zamir White. Josh Jacobs has looked great, no doubt about it. But as we know, running backs get hurt. And let's see if anybody else has even been drafted from the Raiders so far. I mean, Zamir White's the guy. He can go real deep with Brandon Bolden. But as far as I'm concerned, Zamir White should be a pretty elite handcuff, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was picking them all off season. So it's I think I'd lean more Kelly though, or P Ryan. Like I think I kind of like P Ryan just Mixon gets so much work, so much carries, and he would be the next guy up. But Zamir White's the same situation.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm looking at right here.
At the rate, what are the Raiders 1 and 4? I mean, and they keep losing games, and their seasons 3 and 8 start. Like, yeah, they're probably Jacobs. You're done. White, you're next man up. See what we got. So I don't hate that.
Yeah, so we'll keep all these guys queued up. I'm sorry, James. I just looked out my window and realized why my dogs are going so crazy. There's a stray dog running up and down my block, and there are multiple neighbors that are chasing the dog around trying to catch this stray golden retriever. So that explains the nuisance happening outside my office right now. Is my dog's going crazy because there is a stray golden retriever running up and down my street.
They probably think you're a jerk for just like being on your computer and should be out helping the neighborhood.
Probably should be. Yeah, I'm sure. In addition to the barking dogs, I'm probably also getting some dirty glares from my neighbors through the window. But hey, content doesn't sleep. So yeah, I mean, really, we're just kind of waiting at this point for the end of this draft to see who we end up here. But let's take a look at some receivers, just to see. Let's say Quez Watkins does get sniped from us. I mean, KJ Hamler, that would also work with the pretty heavy Broncos stack that we have going here. Have there been any other late round guys that have been jumping out to you? Taekwon Thornton, we haven't seen too much from him yet this season, but he did have his season debut and had a couple passes last week. Diami Brown just when we wrote this guy off for dead, after a
Yeah.
pretty bad rookie season, has 2 huge catches last week and comes back to life. I'm not sure if you saw my tweet, but kind of wild that we've seen Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Diami Brown all putting up wide receiver 1 weeks, and Terry McLaurin has yet to crack the top 20 in a single week. I mean, that's we
Sad.
talk about what an awful pick Allen Robinson was, but Terry McLaurin, I mean, pretty much everybody in round 4 from this offseason, not named Brees Hall, was a terrible pick.
Yeah, it would be fun to kind of look back and kind of see where we drafted everyone and how bad they really were.
Give me just a second. I'm going to try to pull it up because I just shared this tweet a few days ago. Somebody pulled up an
you're on the
Underdog
clock
tweet.
now.
All right, so we want to go with Zamir White here.
I'm okay with that. I
Prefer
would
any of
go.
these other guys?
Nah. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I like it.
All righty. I got to try to find this though. I'll be able to pull it up relatively quickly, but it was somebody had shared a tweet that Underdog had shared in August saying, "Who was your favorite pick from round 4?" And the screenshot of who was available at that point in the draft, now knowing what we know a few weeks into the season, was just hilariously bad. It was literally Brees Hall was the only pick. If you picked anybody besides Brees Hall in round 4, you probably have a strong hate. All right, here, let's go through this. These were the 4th
Wait,
round.
you're on the clock real
Yeah.
quick. You got 5 seconds.
We're gonna go Quez Watkins here. That was an easy one. But here, James. So we got Travis Etienne. Jalen Waddle was a nice pick. All right, I'll give that one. Jalen Waddle's been all right. He had a big spike week, but hasn't been consistent. Ezekiel Elliott, Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, Gabe Davis just came back to life last week, so feeling good about that. You're getting that spike week that you wanted from Gabe Davis. Brees Hall, Jerry Jeudy, Cam Akers. I mean, just an absolutely disgusting round. So Gabe Davis did save
Gabe Davis,
Waddle.
Yeah, those guys aren't the worst, but no, that's rough. That's rough. I think that was, if you look back last year too, it was kind of similar. Like 4th round's rough.
I think the 4th round, what we do is, you want to take risks in the draft, but you feel like you have to go with these safe picks in the 4th round, and those safe picks end up not being so safe. We think that this guy's going to get volume, or this wide receiver hasn't fallen off the age cliff yet. And that's a lot of what we do is force feeding guys in good situations into that part of the draft before we start taking our swings in the 5th, 6th, 7th round on guys that we're planting the flag on. But I think next year, seeing that in back-to-back years where that round 4 has just kind of been a dead zone, I think in round 4, that's when I'm just going to start reaching for the guys that I want, rather than saying, well, let me play ADP and take Terry McLaurin here. I'm just going to say, you know what, I'm going to reach and get the guy that I want in round 5 rather than waiting.
I did notice in the offseason, like around 4 to 7 were all kind of similar to me. So like, I try to mix and match a lot more. I didn't try to be on just certain players and drive up their ownership. So I tried to level it out, especially in those rounds.
Yeah, and that helps a ton. And we talk about that all the time. Roster construction is more important than picking the right players. And we're seeing that come to fruition now already. So let's see. We got 2 picks left here, and then we can take a quick look at the board before we wrap this up. But before these 2 picks get in, Jalen Hurts, Russell Wilson, Ramondre Stevenson, Melvin Gordon, Darrell Henderson, Kenneth Gainwell, J.D. McKissick, Dontrell Hilliard, Zamir White, Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams, Brandon Cooks, Elijah Moore, Hunter Renfrow, KJ Osborne, Quez Watkins, Mark Andrews, and Dallas Goedert. I think we got some good value here. The 7-7 split with running backs and wide receivers, considering we waited on running backs. I mean, the first running back we took was Ramondre Stevenson at pick 62. So I think that is kind of the way to do that. But the 2 flags that we planted heavily on this team were, 1, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to maintain the best offense in the NFL, and 2, Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos are going to bounce back and play a little bit better than we've seen through the first third, I should say, of this season. If those 2 things both pan out, I think that we're going to be in pretty good shape with this one.
Yeah, I think it's a decent balanced build. Comes with some upside too, and I think it's going to be a little more unique with those running backs that we built out there. So it could go our way.
Taking a look here, nothing jumps out to me as too crazy. Amon St. Brown here at 21. I think he'd probably be going a little bit earlier if he didn't have that lingering injury. But like you said, anybody with an injury is getting faded pretty hard here. Prior to that injury, because you started doing these a few weeks ago, where was Amon St. Brown going? I'd have to imagine he was going in the 1st round, right?
I think Swift was as well. Swift was like a first rounder right there. And then Amon-Ra, yeah, he was right there. I think early second. That's kind of where he was going.
Yeah, and here's DeAndre Swift fell all the way to round 3. Kind of crazy
Hmm.
to see that, but yeah, overall this was a fun one. I'm excited to get a few more of these in before this ends. Anybody watching the show, this will end right before kickoff on Thursday. So with it now being Tuesday afternoon, you've got all day today, all day tomorrow, and pretty much all day Thursday to get some of these in. Like I mentioned, if you use promo code Football Guys, you will get a 100% deposit match up to $100 on your initial deposit. So be sure to do that if you have not already. James, any parting words for the audience before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, just these resurrections, they're fun. I think it's one of the better tournaments, to be honest. Like even during the off season, it's $10 to get in. I like the payout. First place is 100 grand. You can't complain about that. You don't have to beat 500,000 people, so it's not like Best Ball Mania 3. Obviously, the prizes are not quite as big, but I would just look at QBs are going to go earlier. Running backs dry up pretty quick. I think receivers you can build out regardless if you go early at receiver or mid receivers, late receivers, whatever. That's the easiest position I've found to build in these. If you pay up for tight end, that might make your running backs a little bit weaker, as you saw with Mark Andrews. We didn't really have that anchor there at a running back course. So lots of ways to play it, just like the off season. It's a really fun tournament. So yeah,
No.
I would throw at least a few entries in.
Now, let me throw one other question your way, James.
Mhm.
We've been doing these best ball resurrection drafts. Well, we did that today, and then we've also been doing the battle royale drafts
Mhm.
in the off season when we were drafting for Best Ball Mania. Josh Allen at a third round ADP. Lamar Jackson was at the 3-4 turn around the same spot as Patrick Mahomes. You could wait until the 6th round and get Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray. Going into next season, when we're drafting in the offseason, where do you kind of expect these quarterbacks to land? Do you think we're going to see, like in today's draft, Josh Allen went 6th overall? Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts went 10th and 11th overall. Do you think we're going to see those quarterbacks get their ADP pushed up to that sort of spot next offseason?
I think Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts, yes, they'll all be in the top 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Allen will probably be borderline first rounder. I think it's just even after Lamar had that crazy Lamar and Mahomes when they had those crazy seasons. The next year they were first round picks. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
I thought the ADP on Josh Allen was a little bit steep this year with him going in the 3rd round, and I said I'm not going to draft any Lamar or Josh Allen. I'm just going to wait until 2 or 3 rounds later and get some of the other elite quarterbacks. But kind of kicking myself for not paying up on Josh Allen. So really interested to see where these quarterback
Mhm.
ADPs fall heading into the 2023 season. But we'll be back next week. I don't know if we're going to be doing Battle Royale or if Underdog will have some other fun contests out by then, but these guys keep innovating and coming out with new and fun ideas to keep us engaged. So we will be back next week, 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays at youtube.com/footballguys. James, before we log off, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, just I just stay on Twitter. So James Brimacombe at Twitter, and yeah, I like to post kind of every week after all the results come in. I'll post kind of where I stand on my best ball entries for the tournament. So that's up on my Twitter if you want to check it out and kind of compare advance rates and stuff. So I really like looking at the number side of the best ball game as well. So.
Yeah. Be sure to follow James. Really fun follow on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Dave Kluge. And then most importantly, you can find all of the Football Guys video content at youtube.com/footballguys. So hit that subscribe button. Drop us a like if you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we will see you next week.